You're listening to the CyberWire Network, powered by N2K.
And now, a word from our sponsor, Cortex. Security teams face a barrage of more security tools create more complexity, more devices need protection, more specialized focus areas create more silos. The security landscape is changing fast. How can security operations transform to meet current threats? Cortex by Palo Alto Networks consolidates SecOps tools into an integrated platform and helps organizations stop threats at scale with AI, automation, and analytics. Learn more at paloaltonetworks.com/Cortex. CISA adds a Fortinet flaw to its must-patch list. Splunk releases fixes for 11 vulnerabilities in Splunk Enterprise. Error Father is a new malicious Android banking Trojan. New evidence backs secure by design practices. CISA warns that threat actors are exploiting unencrypted persistent cookies. The FIDO Alliance standardizes passkey portability. Cyber criminals linger on Telegram. On our Industry Voices segment, our guest is Matt Radulek, Vice President of Incident Response and Cloud Operations at Varonis. We're discussing how AI amplifies the need for data privacy regulation and opens the doors for abuse. And we mark the passing of the co-creator of the BBS. It's Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. Thanks for joining us here today. It is great to have you with us and great to be back. Around 87,000 IP addresses are potentially vulnerable to a critical Fortinet flaw, which CISA added to its must-patch list due to active exploitation, according to the Shadow Server Foundation. CISA requires federal agencies to patch this remote code execution vulnerability by October 30th, after rating it a 9.8 on the vulnerability scale. Fortinet discovered the flaw internally and issued a fix in February, warning it reduces but doesn't fully prevent exploitation. Most affected IPs are in Asia, followed by North America and Europe. It's unclear if the vulnerability has been used in ransomware attacks, though Fortinet vulnerabilities have been exploited before, including in a Chinese cyber espionage campaign reported by Dutch intelligence in June. Speaking of Fortinet, their FortiGuard Labs has released a new threat intelligence report that uncovers significant cyber threats targeting the 2024 U.S. presidential election. The report reveals that phishing scams aimed at voters and donors are on the rise, with threat actors selling phishing kits on the darknet designed to impersonate presidential candidates. These scams seek to steal personal information like names, addresses, and credit card details. Since the start of 2024, over 1,000 malicious domains related to the election have been registered, many mimicking legitimate fundraising sites. Meanwhile, darknet forums are flooded with U.S. personal data, including Social Security numbers and login credentials, posing a serious risk of fraud and phishing attacks. Ransomware attacks against U.S. government agencies have spiked by 28%, threatening the integrity of the election process. Fortinet emphasizes the need for strong cybersecurity measures, including multi-factor authentication and regular software updates, to protect against these growing threats. Splunk has released fixes for 11 vulnerabilities in Splunk Enterprise, including 2 high-severity flaws leading to remote code execution on Windows systems. The most critical affects Windows instances and allows remote code execution for users without admin or power roles. Another flaw allows arbitrary file writing, potentially enabling malicious code execution. Recent Splunk Enterprise versions resolve these issues, along with other medium severity flaws affecting JavaScript code execution, password exposure, and system crashes. A new malicious campaign dubbed Error Father is deploying a Cerberus-based Android banking Trojan, according to Cyble. From mid-September to late October of this year, Cyble's research identified 15 malicious apps posing as Chrome and Play Store applications. The Trojan uses a multi-stage infection chain to target financial and social media apps, leveraging keylogging, overlay attacks, and virtual network computing. Cerberus, first seen in 2019, is known for stealing banking credentials and personal information. Despite its age, Error Father has modified Cerberus's code to evade detection. The campaign employs a Telegram bot for communication and uses a domain generation algorithm for resilient command and control operations. Cyble recommends using official app stores, antivirus software, strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, and biometric security to mitigate the risk. The campaign remains active with its C2 server still operational. In related news, Zimperium has identified 40 new variants of the TrickMo Android banking Trojan, tied to 16 droppers and 22 command and control infrastructures. These variants feature Android PIN theft, one-time password interception, screen recording, and data exfiltration. TrickMo, which has been active since 2019, abuses the accessibility service to steal banking credentials through phishing overlays. A fake lock screen mimics the Android unlock prompt to capture PINs. At least 13,000 victims have been exposed, mostly in Canada, the UAE, Turkey, and Germany. TrickMo spreads via phishing, and Google Play Protect offers some defense. A new report from Secure Code Warrior reveals that training developers in secure by design practices can reduce software vulnerabilities by over 50%. Analyzing data from 600 enterprises over 9 years, the report found organizations with more than 7,000 developers saw a 47% to 53% decrease in vulnerabilities. This supports the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency's push for secure by design development, part of a broader national cybersecurity strategy. The report also highlights that secure by design practices are more effective when mandated by executives or regulations. While the financial services sector leads in adopting these practices, other critical infrastructure sectors like healthcare and defense are progressing. However, the energy and communications sector wasn't included due to fewer active developers. The National Institute of Standards and Technology notes that fixing software defects during testing can be up to 100 times more costly than secure by design approaches. CISA warns that threat actors are exploiting unencrypted persistent cookies in F5 Big IP's local traffic manager to map out internal network devices. These cookies, used for session persistence in load balancing, contain encoded IP addresses and other sensitive details about internal servers. When unencrypted, attackers can identify vulnerable devices, potentially leading to network breaches. F5 Big IP administrators are urged to encrypt these cookies, a feature available since version 11.5. Encryption prevents attackers from leveraging the cookie data for network discovery. CISA also recommends using F5's diagnostic tool BigIP iHealth to identify misconfigurations. Administrators can enforce AES 192 encryption to secure all persistent cookies, reducing the risk of exploitation during cyber attacks. The FIDO Alliance, in collaboration with companies like 1Password, Bitwarden, Dashlane, Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Samsung, is standardizing how password managers can make passkeys portable across providers. This effort aims to accelerate passkey adoption, improving security and user experience. With over 12 billion online accounts now accessible via passkeys, the benefits are significant. Passkeys reduce phishing, prevent credential reuse, and improve sign-in success rates by 20%, while being 75% faster than traditional passwords or SMS-based two-factor authentication. Despite Telegram founder Pavel Durov's arrest and his commitment to combat illegal activities on the app, many cybercriminals are expected to remain on the platform, according to researchers at Intel 471. While some hacker groups are exploring alternatives like Jabber, Tox, and Signal, Telegram's convenience and extensive reach make it hard to leave. Its robust features, such as large group chats, bots, and customizable tools, are unmatched by other platforms. Though Durov pledged increased cooperation with law enforcement and stricter moderation, a mass exodus of criminals hasn't occurred. Some groups, like Bloody Ransomware, have left, but most are still using Telegram due to its popularity. Researchers will continue tracking cybercriminal activity across various platforms, while Telegram prepares to handle an influx of law enforcement requests targeting the worst offenders. Coming up after the break, our guest Matt Radulek from Varonis shares how AI amplifies the need for data privacy regulation. Stay with us. Identity architects and engineers, simplify your identity management with Strata. Securely integrate non-standard apps with any IDP, apply modern MFA, and ensure seamless failover during outages. Strata helps you avoid app refactoring and reduces legacy tech debt, making your identity systems more robust and efficient. Strata does it better and at a better price. Experience stress-free identity management and join industry leaders in transforming their identity architecture with Strata. Visit strata.io/cyberwire, share your identity challenge, and get a free set of AirPods Pro. Revolutionize your identity infrastructure now. Visit strata.io/cyberwire. And our thanks to Strata for being a longtime friend and supporter of this podcast. And now, a word from our sponsor. The Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute is currently seeking qualified applicants for its innovative Master of Science in Security Informatics degree program. Study alongside world-class interdisciplinary experts and gain unparalleled educational, research, and professional experience in information security and assurance. Interested U.S. citizens should consider the National Science Foundation's CyberCore Scholarship for Service program, which covers tuition, required fees, university-sponsored health insurance, and a $6,000 annual professional development allowance, as well as providing a $37,000 additional annual stipend. Learn more at cs.jhu.edu/MSSI. Matt Radulek is Vice President of Incident Response and Cloud Operations at Varonis. In today's sponsored Industry Voices segment, Matt shares how AI amplifies the need for data privacy regulation and opens doors for abuse.
I think we're metaphorically still children crawling around in our cribs. We're just starting to taste the gains of AI. We haven't gone that far down the rabbit hole yet. Many companies still don't leverage their first AI products. Lots of companies are still developing their first AI offerings or their first AI integrated offerings. And so there's a lot of buzz and a lot of hype and a lot of people hard at work to see what they could get out of it. And we're already starting to see tremendous risk. And I think that's that's sort of like the opening of Pandora's box that we can't go and undo.
So what are some of the specific perils here then?
Yeah. So one thing is, like any emerging technology market, there are these AI as a service startups that are going to market very quickly and unfortunately aren't even implementing some basic security controls. Like in the application security world, people talk about what's called the OWASP top 10 a lot. And that has to deal with application security and the top 10 ways that applications get hacked. And there are these AI as a service companies that are collecting and amassing large amounts of data that are vulnerable to like cross-tenant session hijacking, meaning if you have access key for your data and your AI in that particular service, you can maybe change something about the URL or modify that token and be able to view someone else's data, which isn't intended. There are other places where like organizations are adopting more branded AI, like Gen AI, like copilots, without fully understanding the permissions models, and they're exposing data unintentionally to their employees and other users of those systems. That's probably the one that many of your listeners are experiencing right now today.
Well, I mean, let's dig into data privacy here. We sort of famously here in the US are flying without any type of federal data privacy legislation. How important is that when it comes to our conversations about AI?
Yeah, I think it's like it's this missing piece. Oftentimes we're looking to regulation after something bad has happened, where the regulation is seen as this check and balance of capitalism versus the need for regulation. And I think with AI, it's one of the things we're being too naive about when it comes to enforcing regulation that ultimately could protect consumers and citizens of the U.S. from having their data be used to train a model that could even potentially be used against them. I think a lot about a European company that was just fined. I think it was somewhere in the round of a few $1 million, that they used images that they collected from the public internet in order to create facial recognition software. And so it begs the question for citizens or end users, whatever you want to refer to them as, when they uploaded that picture to Facebook or Instagram or even their company's website, were they consenting to having it be used to track their face? I think that's the bigger privacy question here is what data can be used and trained in models that's publicly available on the web. And was that the license that the person whose that likeness belongs to granted when was it like an unrestricted license when you upload stuff to Instagram, for instance? You're basically agreeing to let Meta do whatever they want with that picture. Including sell it for profit. Does that same thing apply with any other website? And I think this is the questions that people should be asking, because all the data that's on the public internet is clearly being used to train lots and lots of AI models.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point you bring up here. I mean, like not even specifically about AI, but just this this regime we kind of live in with the EULAs, where you've got this giant legal document that I think it's fair to say for social media platforms, most people just click through because they want to have free access to whatever's being offered there. But there's so much that you're giving consent to, and there's no granularity.
No, and no, and I think it's also not made simple for people to kind of understand it, and
Mm.
AI just makes that worse, right? A lot of the problems that you think about in data security are either due to lack of awareness or lack of control or even obscurity, right? Where like it's just hard for a non-technical person to usually figure out how to get to large swaths of data. But these large language models and these co-pilots are making it super, super easy. And that's like the first kind of light that's shining out of Pandora's box for me that says we really need to rethink about how we're choosing to regulate AI. A lot of people will joke about like before the robots take over the world, if you've ever seen Terminator, but I do think that that is a future state that we could be up against as you look at more autonomous drones, whether flying or, robotic. You look at them being potentially AI powered on their own self-learning and self-enhancing models. Like, I don't think it's that far off. It's not that far-fetched anymore. That reality from Terminator is more visible now than it was a year or 5 years ago.
I think a lot of folks, even security folks, they find themselves in this situation where the powers that be in their organizations, the members of the board, leadership teams, they see all of this enthusiasm about AI and they see their competitors adopting it. And there's this fear that if we don't do something, we just do anything, we're going to get left behind.
I think that's a real legitimate fear. I should probably also say I'm one of the biggest proponents of exploring and experimenting with AI. One of my closest colleagues who conveniently shares your name, Dave, or if you go by David, David Gibson at Varonis, he thinks that the AI age is going to be bigger than space. And I think I agree with him. I think that we as humanity are going to benefit more from the development and advancement of AI for like the common person, whether it's from medicine or infrastructure or civil services, than we will from the exploration of space. That's what makes us feel so fortunate. So I personally encourage organizations to pursue those gains. That's how you can get a competitive advantage in the market, by being first to innovate something. The fintech industry is really ripe for that right now. Fintech is one of the sectors that's leading the charge with AI, finding all the efficiency gains that they can, but they're also one of the same sectors that's closely evaluating data security, because the difference between a fintech company having a competitive advantage or not is those formulas and rates and sophisticated spreadsheets that they use to analyze markets that are proprietary and confidential. So they've typically taken data security really seriously from the get-go. So they're one that understands the risk and the reward. And that's really what I would encourage organizations to do, is balance the risk and the reward of moving forward with AI. I would give it an endorsement. It's definitely something that you want to do. Our company does it. We have AI embedded in our solutions and in the services that we offer in order to provide better service to our clients. But we take the security of those large language models and the data that we feed into these AIs really, really seriously, because we don't want to magnify open permissions model or a data security problem by enabling a really powerful feature. And I think that's what every organization is up against right now, is how do we strike that balance, which is something that is typical to security, right? The balance of security and productivity has always been there. AI is just shining a light on data risk.
You in your position, you're VP of Incident Response and Cloud Operations at Varonis. What is your advice to folks who are responsible for things like incident response in their own organizations? And any words of wisdom here?
Yeah, I have a couple. First one is like, know and understand your blast radius. And what I mean by that is a person or a system, a device at your organization has access to things, has access to data, has access to other systems, is interconnected to other systems. Figure out what that is and measure it periodically, because what you'll find out is that most of the time it's too big. So, do things to revoke access and restrict unused access away, whether it's network access or data access or access to applications, because oftentimes these AI function with pass-through permissions as your users. So the less amount of stuff that they can get to, the less amount of stuff that the AI can get to use layman's terms. The second thing that you want to do, though, is monitor how your employees use these AIs. I often talk a lot in the Microsoft Copilot world about policing the prompts, right? It's just like how, you're given a driver's license, you can get car insurance and buy a car, you can drive it on public roads, but there are these guardrails in place by society and enforced by, police officers and state troopers in order to keep you from kind of going off the reservation. And that same type of thing is what the corporate responsibility is for your employees' use of AI. Give them the tools, but monitor how they use them. Make sure that people are using them responsibly and not doing things like saying, what's the upcoming bonus and who's getting the biggest bonus, or create a spreadsheet of all of our patients' PII and put it in a CSV format or a PDF format, or do we have any plain text passwords available that can log into the XYZ application? Like, make sure that you don't have users that are making queries or prompts with bad intent, and do something about it, as that's the responsible way to move forward. Like anything in security, right? There's a famous saying here. I'm drawing to blank, Dave. You gotta give me a second. Oh, sure. Trust but verify, right? Like, trust your users to do the right thing, but be looking over their shoulders and verify that.
So in terms of prioritizing their efforts here, I mean, where do you recommend that people focus?
Focus on your vaults. These are your large warehouses of information. These are going to be things like your storage arrays in your data centers, your cloud storage from Amazon like S3 or Microsoft like Azure Blob, your Snowflakes, your Salesforces. These are often large data warehouses where these AIs can suck up a lot of data, but if you've got your security well, that won't happen.
Our thanks to Matt Radulek, Vice President of Incident Response and Cloud Operations at Varonis, for joining us. And now, a word from our sponsor, Maltego. Maltego's all-in-one platform for OSINT and investigations speeds up complex investigations from hours to minutes. Trusted by half of Dow Jones and governments around the world, it helps cyber threat intelligence teams, fraud analysts, and law enforcement agencies integrate the most relevant data and enhance situational awareness to combat crime and mitigate risks. Detect threats early and solve cases quickly. Go to www.maltego.com/getademo to explore how Maltego keeps businesses and the public safe. That's www.maltego.com/getademo. And finally, the passing of Ward Christensen feels like the closing of a chapter for those of us who remember the early days of online communication. Ward, alongside his friend Randy Seuss, invented the first computer bulletin board system in 1978, and with that, they gave many of us our first taste of the online world. Before the internet became what it is today, BBSs were the gateway to connect with others, share files, and explore early online communities. Ward's creation was a lifeline for hobbyists, gamers, and tech enthusiasts, opening up a world where you could dial in, leave a message, and feel a part of something larger. Born out of a snowstorm, the idea for the first BBS came when travel to their Chicago computer club was impossible. Ward's technical brilliance combined with Randy's hardware expertise, and in a matter of weeks, they built the system that would change the way people communicated. Ward wrote the software which allowed users to dial into a dedicated machine, leave messages, share files, and even play games, a virtual pushpin board for the digital age. And they didn't keep it to themselves. They openly shared the concept, sparking a wave of innovation that led to the development of countless other BBSs. For those of us who were there, these BBS systems weren't just technical achievements. They were community. They introduced us to the power of connecting with others across distances, and for many, they were the first brush with what would later become the Internet. Ward's influence can still be felt today in everything from multiplayer gaming to online forums. Ward never sought fame or recognition, even as his creation laid the groundwork for so much of our digital world. While he enjoyed a long career at IBM, Ward never flaunted his role in shaping online communication. He was quiet, unassuming, and content to let others shine, despite his monumental contributions. Jason Scott, who interviewed Ward for BBS the documentary, said it best. Ward was the quietest, pleasantest, gentlest dude. Though he's gone, Ward's spirit of openness and sharing will live on. His decision to make his work freely available to others is a legacy we should all honor. He didn't just create technology, he created a culture of generosity that still influences how we think about the digital world. As we say goodbye to Ward, we remember him not just as an innovator, but as a pioneer who made the online world a little more connected, a little more generous, and a lot more fun. Rest in peace, Ward. You've earned it. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K CyberWire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your team smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode was produced by Liz Stokes. Our mixer is Trey Hester, with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Our executive editor is Brandon Karp. Simone Petrella is our president. Peter Kilpie is our publisher. And I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Quick question. Do your end users always, and I mean always without exception, work on company-owned devices and IT-approved apps? I didn't think so. So my next question is, how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged apps and devices? 1Password has an answer to this question: Extended Access Management. 1Password Extended Access Management helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device because it solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. And it's now available to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra and in beta for Google Workspace customers. Check it out at 1password.com/cyberwire. That's 1password.com/cyberwire.